some of you may think that I'm a little crazy, but building a miner was always on my bucket list. And last month, while I was lying in bed with my lower left jaw throbbing after having had my impacted wisdom tooth taken out, I thought of a book that I read a while ago by Richard Branson. This one here, I don't know if you've read it. Screw it, let's do it. So that's what I did. Welcome everyone to this presentation here where in the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you my experience of building an Ethereum miner and what I learned about Ethereum and blockchains. I spent 2 weeks of my life reading all that I could on the internet, getting very little sleep, and pulling out what little hair I had left on my head. Because those blogs that you read online make the process sound oh so simple, but it was anything but that. The first step was to go ahead and build a computer. It had been such a long time since I last built my first computer, about 20 years ago, so I had to do a lot of reading. What eventuated was I had to go and choose a motherboard. I decided on this guy here, a Gigabit 970, about $150, $60, and the reason why I chose this was because it had 5 PCIe slots. You want one with a lot of slots to put all your graphics cards on. Next up was the chip. This was an AMD one. It goes with the motherboard. It doesn't have to be powerful. You don't need an i7, for example. So this one here, another $170. Stock standard RAM, no frills, no brand, 8 gigs will do the trick. $80 for that. I feel like a home shopping network here. I don't endorse any of these brands, by the way. Suzanne Paul, yes, exactly. This one here is a power supply. It's EVGA. It's quite good. It's very quiet, very efficient, and $230. But most importantly, this puppy here. Now, this is the secret sauce, right? This is the Sapphire Nitro RX 480. There's lots out there that you can choose from. This one was just available, not a bad price, $400, and it's got quite good performance as well. So that's the hardware side. Next up was the software side. So I spent no less than 2 days trying to get this thing running on Ubuntu, but it just wouldn't work. The drivers with the graphics card and Ubuntu, they didn't quite match, and although people say that it would work, I finally gave up and jumped back to Windows. And it worked first time, believe it or not. After that, I had to download an Ethereum client, and Mist is the most obvious choice. It's really easy, it's a graphical user interface, nice and friendly. The other options you have would be Geth, which is Go Ethereum. It's written in the Go language. You've got other C++ options and Python options as well, but Mist was the way to go for me. After that, we've got the actual mining software itself. Here, a few more options as well. There's Fminer, there's Claymore, a few others that you can choose from. The software here is actually quite simple to set up. Because you're on Windows, you download the executable, and then you just run it, and it auto detects the devices that you've got, and it kicks into life. Now, when I was building this, I turned on the power supply, expecting the fans to whiz into life and the lights to start flashing, but nothing actually happened. And I thought to myself, I might have short-circuited some components or miswired something, but I hadn't. Can anyone have a guess why it didn't turn on?
You had to run some kind of command?
Not quite.
Got the power supply.
I got the power supply, but I didn't have an on switch. So if you think about a case, you've got a switch at the back, and then you've got a little switch on the front as well, and I didn't have that. So what I did is I looked around the motherboard, and I saw a couple of pins that you can see here, labeled PWR, plus and minus. So I took out my trusty Swiss Army knife, applied it across those 2 pins, and I wouldn't recommend this as a long-term solution. And then, before you knew it, the fans kicked into life, the lights started blinking. And when you've got it all set up, and everything's running, you've got all the fans on the graphics cards running, it sounds like a jumbo jet taking off in your living room. And to the blockchain enthusiasts, it might be music to your ears. for about 5 minutes, and then it gets annoying and you put it to another room. So it was up and running, and I connected it to a pool, because solo mining is actually quite difficult. This is nano pool here, and you can see it's got nice statistics for you. It's got the hash rate, the average hash rate, how much you're earning over time, your balance over there, and it's got this interesting thing up top, this DAG epoch period. So I'll come back to that shortly. I'm sure you're all interested in the numbers. How much money did I make, right? So that card there, that single card, hashes at about 22 megahashes per second. It's not too bad. It's the stock standard speed, not overclocked, not tweaked, not water cooled. It earned about 0.1 of an ether per day. And at around, I think, $8 US, I generated 80 US cents in a 24-hour period. That unit consumes about 200 watts of electricity. And the New Zealand price, I think, is about 26, 27 kilowatt hours, translated to US dollars, let's say 20 US cents. Multiply all the numbers together, and it was costing me 96 US cents to run. So therefore, doing the maths, 80 take away 96, I was making a whopping negative 16 US cents a day. So obviously, there's not a lot of money made, but people are making money. How? Well, they've got a couple of levers to tweak. First of all, if they're outside the US, they can rely on the US exchange rate. They can hope that the price of Ethereum increases, so from $8 to $16, for example, would halve your time to ROI. You could negotiate cheaper electricity prices, maybe go renewable with solar as well. So a couple of options there. So what did I learn through this process? Well, first of all, if you want to learn about Ethereum, I'd highly recommend downloading Mist, the client. Become familiar with it, understand how it works. The first thing that happens is that the application tries to synchronize with the 2.8 million odd blocks onto your computer. That can take anywhere from 3 or 4 hours to like 3 or 4 days. You'll see that it takes around about 10.8 or 11 gigs of hard disk space as well, so make sure you've got enough room. After that, get some Ether. If you really want to learn, I'd recommend getting some Ether and exchanging it, zapping it around with your friends to understand how it works. You've got a wallet inside Mist. You can generate your own addresses to receive and send funds. And I also learned that the setup that I had was helping to support the Ethereum network. It was securing transactions, and it's helping those Ethereum developers, such as you'll hear Felix talk when he talks about his dApps or the decentralized applications. I also heard about this thing called a DAG file, and I've always wanted to know what it was. I kind of knew about it, but wasn't quite sure. Now, Ethereum uses a proof of work called Ethash, and that's a modified version of what's called the Dagger-Hashimoto algorithm. And it actually gets quite technical and complicated, but if I could draw an analogy, imagine that you are solving a jigsaw puzzle with 30,000 pieces, and you're just about to put the final piece together, and then your cheeky little brother comes along and messes everything up, and you have to start again. Well, what happens is that in Ethereum, the DAG epoch period is just that. After 30,000 blocks, or a 100-hour window, the DAG file changes. So the formula changes. And this is designed to be ASIC resistant. What it really means is that it's trying to prevent all the very smart hardware engineering folks to take that formula and place it onto a silicon chip and have it hashing at very fast speeds, like what you see with the Bitcoin and the Litecoin network. So you're working on the formula, and after 100 hours, the carpet gets pulled out from under your feet, and you have to start again. It's quite a neat and clever little tool. Okay, so in summary, I learned about computers, I learned about graphics cards and the NIST browser and blockchains and supporting applications and DAG file, etc. But I'd like to pull a quote from this guy here. I like this quote because I believe that knowing is not enough. We must apply, and willing is not enough. We must do. Having gone through this process here, hands-on and learning about it, it's consolidated my understanding of blockchains and Ethereum, how it works. And I'd highly recommend, if you guys want to get into it as well, to do the same. Get your hands dirty, download the applications and have a play with it. And there's lots of people here that can help support your learning and sharing as well. Now, I've never been mistaken for Bruce Lee before, unfortunately, but I have been mistaken for this guy here. I'm not sure if there's any resemblance there. But whether you are slaying dragons or you are trying to conquer the next final frontier, I would highly recommend that Bitcoins, blockchains, and smart contract technologies are the fundamental fabric that I believe is going to change the way that we are going to live going forward. Awesome.